Hello there folks, and welcome back to another video. ArtFight season is truly just around the corner, and I couldn't be more excited for it. I first started doing ArtFight in 2017, which means that this year's fight will be my 10th time participating in the event. I aim to complete over 100 tacks every year, and I've certainly got tons of experience under my belt after all these years. So I decided to make this video. Whether you're a veteran looking to compare experiences, or a newer player seeking wisdom from an older player, this video is for everyone. Let's answer your questions about ArtFight, and I'll give you my advice for having a fun, productive ArtFight this year. Let's start at the beginning. What is ArtFight, and how does one participate in it? If you already know what ArtFight is and how it works, feel free to skip to this timestamp. This first part is going over the fundamentals for people that are newer. ArtFight is an annual art game that takes place during the entire month of July. During the game, users on the site are split into two teams. For example, let's say the teams are Team Red and Team Blue. Artists on Team Blue gain points for their team by attacking, i.e. making art, of characters belonging to Team Red. The same applies vice versa. Essentially, the fight is a good-spirited event where one team will win by having the higher point total, but that means that the other team only lost because they received more art. While it may have the gamified facade of being a big battle, never forget what the point of ArtFight is, an event where artists make art for each other. In more recent years, this event has also started awarding partial points for friendly fire art, attacking members from your own team. So, if you find someone on the same team as you and you really want to draw their character, you'll still get some credit for it. It's worth noting that I am not a member of ArtFight staff, so you should take any explanation I have of the mechanics and rules with a grain of salt. I'm mainly just speaking from my years of experience. If you'd like to join ArtFight, you can register for it pretty easily. All you need is a username, email, and password. Pretty straightforward as far as website signups go. Once the event begins, you'll be able to join a team. In recent years, the ArtFight staff has announced the teams early, so users could register to join a specific team ahead of time. Once the event begins, you'll be assigned to a team at random. Make sure you actually do join a team though, whether it's in advance or after the fight starts. If you don't actually join a team, you can't receive attacks. Of course, actually making your account is just the beginning. If you want other folks to be able to attack you and make art of your OCs, you'll have to upload them to the site. It's up to you how you want to format your character's profile, and it may vary from character to character. Personally, I think a few good things to include are a colored full-body reference of the character, pronouns, and general info about personality. The more info that you add, the more artists will have to work with when making their attacks. However, adding a long or hard-to-read bio might scare off some artists, so I recommend using paragraph breaks instead of just one block of text. Using bold or italic text on important details may also help with readability. Personally, I love it when people include small anecdotes or hobbies about their characters, since I like to include references to those in my attacks. For example, my own character, Kima, once had to rescue some chickens in a D&D campaign, so he's received some attacks where he's doing that. Of course, you can add literally just a single image and that's all you really need. Adding more info just makes attacks easier to make, at least in my opinion. During the event, once you're ready to submit an attack, make sure you grab the character ID for the character you drew. You'll need this number and the username of the user you're attacking. Then, upload an image, add a title, and you're ready to go. ArtFight itself has a lot of guides to help you score your attack. It's mostly an honor system, so be honest about what your piece is. After all, the purpose of this event isn't really the point total. While you do score attacks yourself, scoring it blatantly incorrectly means that other folks might report you for your dishonesty. So it's better to just aim for accuracy over maximizing points. Once you hit submit, the attack is live, and you can look forward to the response from the target. By the way, ArtFight does have a decent amount of lingo, which may seem a little confusing at first when you're still new. Here's a rundown of terms you might hear a lot. Team, the team that a user is a part of. Attack, art made for another user. Defense, art a user receives. Revenge, art made in response to an attack, back at the attacker. Revenge chain, a series of back and forth attacks between two users, common among friends especially. Multi-character, a character profile that encompasses more than one character, such as a team, siblings, etc. Mass attack, an attack featuring multiple characters, especially for multiple profiles. Multi-attack, an attack with two or more characters. You are less likely to hear this term than mass attack. Those are just the basics. Here's a couple of extra tips to help you earn the credit you deserve for more involved attacks. For example, if you draw more than one character in attack, you can add the ID for every included character, even your own. If you're making a multi-attack, an attack with multiple different characters, this will ensure you get the credit for the extra work. This is especially helpful for mass attacks with a large number of different characters. Another bit of advice I don't think people realize is this: you can include the same character multiple times in the same attack. That may sound weird, but basically, let's imagine you made a sketch sheet of this character. Maybe you drew a full body of them, but also a few expressions. You can add the character for each appearance they make in this single attack. This also works really well for comics. If you do one of these sketch sheet or comic style attacks where you draw the same character more than once, be sure to give yourself credit for it. It's also worth noting who the designated receiver or target of the attack is. If you're making an attack with several characters from many different users, I recommend making the primary target a user who is on the opposite team from you if you want the most points. However, I've certainly made large attacks for a friend as friendly fire, so this isn't really necessary. This tip is mostly for when you make a mass attack for lots of strangers, and you need a little help choosing who the attack is for specifically. While it's all well and good to know how to submit attacks, that all means nothing if you haven't actually made anything yet. So this section is all about creating attacks. When I sent out the question form and community post for this video, my most common questions were about attack creation. Let's get into these questions, and I'll answer them. One of the most common thoughts in these questions was about the ArtFight rules. Right as I began to work on this video, the ArtFight team had reformatted the rules page, which caused a lot of confusion and frustration among the community. Again, I'm not a member of the ArtFight staff, so what I say about the rules should be taken with a grain of salt. However, as someone who's been doing this event for so many years, I really think this isn't so much to worry about. For one thing, the rules have now since been clarified and revised, so concerns people had a few weeks ago may now be moot. The team used a form for community feedback and updated the rules based on this feedback. Heck, I was one of the folks who filled out the form. Historically, tracing had always been prohibited in ArtFight, and based on my understanding, I think this meant tracing in the form of completely copying a source image, not just like guidelining like most people actually use when tracing something like a 3D model or their own pictures. Using references transformatively, I believe, was something that was always allowed. Directly tracing and copying an image by every detail wasn't, and still isn't. From my understanding, I think the rules really have just been clarified to more clearly state what they have always been, in a way that is unambiguous as possible. All that to say, no, references are not prohibited on ArtFight. Using references is not considered against the rules or cheating, and I don't think it ever was. I think this most recent rule clarification is a good thing. The newest thing is that transformative and parcel tracing is now allowed, so as long as the work is fairly transformative and not just a direct copy of the source, you're fine to do that. Again, grain of salt, this is just my understanding of the rules of the past and the rules of the present. This is actually a little bit funny to me since I almost never use tracing or guidelining in my attacks anyway. I've used my own images for a few non-ArtFight pieces, like getting my hand at a specific pose or angle, but now that I'm giving it some thought, this is a process I simply haven't used on ArtFight, at least in years. These rules, by my understanding, had very little effect on me personally, but I am glad that they've been revised and clarified for folks who do use references a lot more often. These rules clarifications likely won't impact my process very much, but I hope they ease up the access for others. Read the rules for yourself, read the FAQ for yourself. Don't let us YouTubers try to explain it for you. I truly do think things are for the better, and I think we'll be in for a good, fair, fun fight this year. Most artists tend to burn out after 1 week of the event. How do I avoid that? Well, I'd be lying if I said I didn't experience any loss of momentum after week 1. I typically slow down a little bit once week 2 starts. However, there's a handful of things I lean on to keep me motivated to come back. First, there's my friends. My friends and I often have long revenge chains with each other, and I try to hold myself accountable to hit them back when the ball is in my court. I try not to keep them waiting, especially since they usually work slower than I do. By working at my naturally fast pace, I ensure that we'll have more time to exchange more attacks before the end of the month. If I find myself feeling a bit bored, inevitably, a friend will attack me, and then I'm motivated to get back to the desk and get my revenge. Another thing I do is just ensuring ArtFight is not literally the only thing I'm doing during July. It helps that I have external factors like my part-time job that get me out of the house and doing something else. Doing anything nonstop, even something you love, can burn you out super quickly. Taking breaks to cook meals, go to work, take walks, play with my pet, these are all vital to ensuring my brain stays refreshed enough to keep up my pace. I often find myself craving the return to art while I'm doing these other activities, and that's how I know I'm ready to work again. Doing non-drawing activities to decompress and give my brain something different to do is really the key to avoiding burnout for me. This is a mental health thing I say to my friends a lot, but I'll say it here too. As a human being, you are simultaneously a zookeeper and their animal. Make sure you pay attention if something doesn't feel right, or if you catch yourself in unhealthy habits. Drink enough water and eat enough food. Treat yourself to enrichment that you'd love to see another animal do. Framing self-care as a form of loving animal care has been pretty helpful for me, so maybe it'll help some of you too. I also got questions about my work speed and how I make 100 attacks every year. I'll begin to answer for these by saying, my work speed is probably unsustainable for most people, and don't beat yourself up if you can't do it. That being said, I typically spend around 15 to 30 minutes on most simple background attacks and around 40 to 60 minutes on attacks with full scenes. Mass attacks will often take me the most time, typically 80 to 120 minutes depending on how many characters are included. Heck, it takes me a good 15 minutes to even register every character on attacks like that once I'm submitting it. The speed at which I work comes from years of refining my process and making it as efficient as I possibly can. If, like me, you work digitally, I highly recommend getting familiar with keyboard shortcuts, or even shortcuts you make your own. Since I'm right-handed, I've adjusted most of my keyboard shortcuts in Clip Studio Paint to use the left side of my keyboard, figure out which functions or tools you use frequently, and make them easier to access. For example, I merge layers a lot, so I've made this function easy to use with just my left hand. Shift and X is what I use for selected layers to merge them all together. Get familiar with, or adjust, your keyboard shortcuts, and this will make your digital art process much quicker. I'll also say, there's nothing wrong with just making a handful of attacks. My goal of 100 every year is something I do just because of my natural pace. However, if you really are trying to increase your working pace and quantity produced, I totally get it. More pieces means more practice, which means you can improve faster. Plus, during ArtFight, it's just fun to have high stats by attacking lots of people. Just make sure this is something you're aiming for earnestly, and not because you feel obligated to work faster. Part of the reason my pieces are fairly consistent and quick for me to put out is because I have something of a standardized rhythm with which I approach the majority of ArtFight attacks. The vast majority of my pieces are illustrations with a single character, shading, and abstract background. I approach these by making a loose sketch, then line art, coloring it with a fill tool, shading everything in that folder, and then messing around with the background and composition until I'm happy with it. Because I approach most pieces with the same workflow, this means I'm making fewer decisions during the process, making my process much faster. If you want to make attacks on a more consistent basis, you'll have a much easier time if you approach each tack as making a recipe over and over, rather than doing something completely and utterly different every time. Obviously, I do make things outside of this usual recipe I do, but this common, easy workflow makes it possible for me to make over 100 attacks every year instead of just one per day. Find your comfort zone, and then use this as the foundation for trying new things and making more art. If you find yourself spending too much time on one attack, here's a funny sounding but effective tip I've got for you. Set a timer! Something like an hour or half an hour. Start the timer right as you start drawing and see how much you can get done in that amount of time. Look at the timer to check on your pacing. This exercise can help you become more aware of each step of your process and how long you take on it. This will also allow you to ask yourself, where do I actually want to spend my time? Plus, setting a timer might simply cause you to dawdle less and be more assertive when drawing instead of hesitating before every stroke. Honestly, if you want a little more of the casual advice and exercises for drawing faster, I do have a $1 tutorial on my Ko-fi and VGen shops if you happen to be interested and want to throw me a tip. It's called How to Draw Faster, which should be nice and easy to remember. You guys were also curious on how I come up with ideas for drawing characters, and it actually goes hand in hand with some of the advice I had about making character profiles on ArtFight. For the majority of characters, I have them make an expression and a pose based on the personality I can gather from their profile info. Often, users will give short descriptions of their characters' personalities, which gives me good ammo to work with when it comes to making an attack. A mischievous character might have a devious grin, and a kind character might have a gentle smile. Sometimes a user might not provide info about the character's personality, and sometimes they might not provide any text at all, just a single character reference image. When I find a character like this, I try to take inspiration from the vibes of the reference image. If it's something like a pastel doll maker, I try to make an illustration with gentle colors and relaxed pose. If the character is making a certain face or pose in their image, I might do my own take on that in my attack. If you're lucky, you might find a character profile with a good chunk of info in it. I personally love profiles for characters that include little details like their favorite things or silly events that have happened to them, and I try to include references to that in my attacks. A character that likes coffee and video games might get an attack with them holding a cute, gaming-themed mug. A tabletop RPG character might get an artist's rendition of some shenanigans they got up to in their game. If you're interested in a more involved scene, these character profiles can give you lots of ideas. Another type of attack I find fun doing is various meme redraws. I typically reserve these for my friends, since I know their characters best, and I try to leave my more polished type of attacks for strangers, and do my sillier, sloppier stuff for people I actually know. There's no shortage of memes, or draw the squads, or other sources you can use as something to inspire a piece that'll get a good smile or a laugh out of your target. Most of the time, for like 95% of my attacks, I just kinda do whatever I think looks cool. I just like playing with poses or expressions, and trying to make the composition look a little snappy. That's something I mostly just have an intuition for at this point, but it goes to show that not every single attack needs to be meticulously thought out. You can just let your intuition guide you, do something you think might be fun, and that's still in the spirit of the fight. While I didn't receive questions sent in to ask me about this, I do want to discuss it a little. How to find targets for ArtFight. If you're someone who's aiming to get lots of attacks done, half the battle is just going to be deciding who you're even going to attack. There's generally two paths you can approach this aspect: characters or users. Let's start with characters. Typically, on any given year on ArtFight, I like to draw as many different characters as possible. Different body plans, color palettes, personalities. I just like getting a huge diversity in the types of characters I draw every year. Plus, they also just make good examples for my commissions. One way you can look for characters to draw is to use ArtFight's tag searching system. If you go to the Discover tab and look under Search Characters, you'll be able to search ArtFight's database of characters by tag. You can sort them by which team they're on, and each time you refresh the search, you should get a new batch of 30 characters to look at. While this feature probably still needs more polish, it's still a very helpful tool in discovering characters that suit the vibe you're looking for. Do you have trouble drawing furries or animals? Search for humanoid characters. Feel like drawing some cryptids? Try the cryptid tag. Want to do a mass attack with fan characters from a single franchise? Search that fandom and find some targets. If you have a specific type of character you feel like drawing, the tag search can be a great way to find some cool targets to draw. Another more old-fashioned way I like to find characters to draw is by browsing the Recent Characters tab on the opposite team. I don't just browse the most recent pages though. I go right up to the address bar and input a very high page count, somewhere around like 10,000 or something, and go there. I'll pick huge random numbers and see which older characters catch my eye. Sometimes I'll just turn the pages normally after that, other times I'll just put in other big numbers until something inspires me. This was the way I found most of my targets before ArtFight introduced the character search feature. It might be a little bit clunky, but I still like doing this when I'm down for drawing any type of character. If I decide to do ArtFight on stream this year, you might even see me doing this live. The second path for finding targets is to search out users instead. User search is a similar function on the site, but instead of looking at character tags, you can find users based on their team and their battle stats. I recommend attacking people with a high ratio because that means they've received less art so far in the event, so they'll probably appreciate an attack even more. I also really enjoy finding new or beginning artists on the platform, and drawing them something nice to leave a good impression for them. I want my fellow artists to have fun and love this event as much as I do, so I like going out of my way to give them a great first experience by treating them to cool art. Another set of users I love attacking are mutuals or longtime followers. As a bit of an old head on ArtFight, I have quite a few longtime accounts that follow me, or both. Some of these accounts I try to make an annual tradition of attacking at least once, so long as they sign up for a team. If you're new, you can use a similar method by just stalking the follower lists of artists you like. This can be a way to browse and find artists with similar attitudes, art styles, or interests, and give you essentially a starter pack of potential targets to work with. Speaking of users others have interacted with, I also recommend checking out the attacks by artists you follow. Not just to look at them, I'm sure they're quite good, but to take a look at who they attacked. If a character featured in an attack catches your eye, you might like to draw them too. Or maybe this user has another character you might want to draw. This is another way you can find more users to browse and more characters to be inspired to attack. And of course, if you have artist friends, go crazy and attack them too. I always end up with revenge chains with my IRL friends, regardless of which team we're on. If you have an artist friend that isn't on ArtFight, maybe you can convince them to join and you could have fun together. Heck, there are some folks on ArtFight who just like making it about exchanging art between friends, and that's totally a valid way to play. Whether you like making art for people you know, or surprising gifts for total strangers, there's an ArtFight playstyle for you, and I encourage you to find it. Now, obviously, the point of ArtFight isn't to receive free art. The point is to make fun things for other people. It's like a classic holiday thing. This is an event about giving, not receiving. Heck, I honestly forget that other people can make art for me during ArtFight. I mostly just laser focus on attacking other people, and then I'm surprised if I receive something. However, it is still nice to receive attacks. If you aren't getting much interaction on the site, there's a couple of things you can do with your user profile and character profiles to make it more enticing for other artists to attack you. No guarantees, of course, but these are little tips that might make you seem more approachable, and maybe even make you some online friends. My first tip, customize your user profile, even if it's just a little bit. Upload a profile picture, maybe even just 1 or 2 sentences about yourself in your bio. Heck, even just putting up some pronouns will make first impressions go from, is this a bot, to, oh, another artist to attack. Some users will go all out with adding images or fun decorations to their profile. This definitely makes you seem more active, and therefore more enticing for artists who want someone to attack them back. However, that's all just extra. Just do whatever you would like with your profile and have fun with it. Another small profile tip I've got is to make your profile text be center aligned. I don't know what it is, but center alignment just looks better to me than the default left alignment. It also makes it more obvious that you've edited your profile to be more than just the default blank settings. People are unlikely to attack accounts that look unused. Setting up a short bio and a profile picture go a long way to making you a more attractive target. I also recommend having a variety of character types. Not just personalities, though that helps too, but species or genre. Some artists struggle with specific types of characters, such as humans or animals, so if you only have this type, they might skip over you. Having multiple types of characters gives other artists more options when it comes to attacking you. This isn't required, of course. I've seen plenty of successful artists in the event that only have one specific type of character. But I do think that having a more diverse pool of characters to choose from makes it easier for more people to attack you. And of course, you should tag your characters. Even if it's just something like humanoid, anthro, animal, or monster, even adding just one tag makes it possible for your character to show up in the tag search function, and therefore it'll be easier to find and draw. I personally prefer using tags that are general over tags that are specific. For example, I'm more likely to tag a Pokemon fan character as Pokemon or Monster than as Hoenn or Water type. You can really just do whatever you want though. My point is that having even just one tag on your characters makes them a lot easier to seek out and draw. And here is my biggest thing. Comment on the attacks you receive! Truly, one of my favorite things about ArtFight is seeing the reactions from the users I make art for. Don't be afraid to key smash, be cringy, or yell in all caps or something. Most artists will relish in a dramatic, earnest reaction. I don't necessarily mind if an artist doesn't comment on something I make for them, but I do really love it when they do say something. Leaving kind and thankful comments on attacks you receive makes you a more enticing target, because now other artists see that you will appreciate what they make for you. Plus, I think it's just good etiquette. If someone makes you a gift, say thank you. It really does go a long way. For this last section, I'll answer other questions you guys sent in that didn't fit these previous parts. I'll also go over some other tips that I think are relevant to these questions and ideas. Let's get into it. How did you first hear about ArtFight? I first heard about ArtFight on Tumblr back in June of 2017. The post was actually pretty similar to the About page that's now on ArtFight's website these days. ArtFight honestly seemed like something that was made for me. Drawing other people's OCs during summer break? That sounded awesome. I made an account later that day. Heck, it was so long ago that many of my oldest characters have mere 5-digit ID numbers. Now there are genuinely millions of characters on the site. It's really insane how much it's grown. When I made my account, I roped in some of my friends to join. For example, my friend Urklo, who is Epic Bubble Kitty on ArtFight, go attack them, joined during 2017's event. It's been fun to drag in my friends and make new ones by participating in an event for so long. And it's all thanks to some random reblog I saw on Tumblr. Cool. Okay, so maybe at the time of this video's release, I've only participated in 9 fights so far in 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. But there's a good chance that you're watching this after the 2026 event has begun, and so then I've done 10 years. So, there. Since you've been doing ArtFight for 10 years, what are some differences about ArtFight? Like what has changed, the growing traction, etc. The biggest difference after all these years would be that traction. ArtFight has truly exploded in the time since I first joined. Again, there's millions of characters on the site now. There were less than 100,000 when I first signed up. I frequently see videos on YouTube talking about ArtFight nowadays, when it used to be something I only saw Tumblr mutuals mention back in the day. There are huge artists I follow that have since joined the fight, and now I have the opportunity to attack them. While it certainly puts a lot of stress on the website's infrastructure, I am very happy to see ArtFight grow from a small cult following sort of thing into this big, internet-wide event for creatives of all sorts. It genuinely went from a thing only me and my close friends knew about, to something a coworker asked me if I participated in. If I could tell my high school self how big this thing got, I think I would be flabbergasted. Another big difference is the site usability. Y'all, the site has become so much more user-friendly in recent years. My biggest things that I love are that friendly fire counts for points now, it used to count for nothing at all, and you can make thumbnail images directly on ArtFight. Back in the day, I used to have to make a 200 by 200 pixel Photoshop file and put little cropped screenshots in it to make a good thumbnail for all my character profiles and attacks. It was honestly kind of a pain. I'm so glad I don't have to do that anymore. Now I can just crop everything right on the site without having to create and export another image on my computer. When you make as many attacks as I do, that time and effort really adds up. The site is also just way more stable than it used to be. It used to be pretty standard that you'd have trouble logging in on the first week, but now these hiccups seem to last no more than a couple of hours. The ArtFight team over the years has seriously done a stupendous job making this website capable of standing up to the huge amount of users that participate now. I know it may be tempting to make a real stink about it whenever the site staff does something inconvenient, but I think they're really doing an awesome job for the most part. These people are just fellow artists, and they're volunteering to make this event even possible for thousands of people to do after all these years. I know they're not perfect, but be nice to them. ArtFight isn't some corporate conglomerate. It's an event run by a few dedicated folks who have pulled off something pretty impressive by even keeping this thing up and running this long. They're working hard for something we're all just doing for fun, so be respectful to them. What is your biggest pet peeves when it comes to ArtFight? I don't really have a lot of pet peeves, thankfully, but there is one small thing that can be sometimes irritating. I guess that's kind of the definition of a pet peeve, huh? Something that kind of annoys me when I see it is when users make the profile for their characters feel more like a commission request than a character bio. It's not that common, at least that I've seen browsing around this year, but sometimes it feels like these users are more interested in getting a very specific piece of free art, and that just feels against the spirit of the fight. Obviously, users set permissions and stuff for characters, and that's totally fine, but the things that really irk me are like, when a user wants a character drawn in a specific pose, in a specific situation, in a specific way. Really picky descriptions and users are more difficult to attack. Remember, don't sign up for ArtFight just to get a free commission from people. The point is to make art for others. Users that seem to forget this principle are really the only thing that gets on my nerves. While I did see a handful of users like this last year, I have yet to encounter one like this year. Although the event hasn't begun in earnest yet, I've just been browsing random profiles for fun so far. Hopefully this means that people with that mindset have either changed their minds and grown better, or they simply left because they weren't getting the exact piece they wanted. If you could change one thing about ArtFight, what would it be? I actually had to think about this for quite a while because, honestly, my answers from previous years have now actually happened. Easy thumbnails, character connections, easier profile editing. These are all things that have since been changed and adjusted in a way that I really like. My answer this year is something I doubt will ever happen, but I'll talk about it anyway. I'd really love to see a tab on user profiles where users can share their off-season art that they've made from the rest of the year. It'd be kind of cool to have that sort of portfolio function and see what everyone's up to when the event isn't happening. While most users do have social media, not everyone does. I'm kind of imagining the portfolio tab on VGen as a bit of an example, and maybe this tab could also include some attacks that the artist is really happy with. Maybe it could be the default home part of the profile instead of the bio. You could toggle which one you prefer to use. It'd be cool to have something of a showcase feature on ArtFight, but I'm also skeptical about it ever being added. After all, the focus of the ArtFight team and the website is the big event. Other social media and art sharing websites already exist, so it's not like ArtFight needs to adopt their features. This is just something I would really personally enjoy seeing on the site, but I think it's not really a necessary feature. I just think it'd be neat. Alright, and I think that just about covers everything I wanted to talk about. Thank you to everyone who sent in questions for the video. Maybe I'll make a follow-up video answering more questions if you guys are interested. If so, post your questions in the comments below and let me know if you'd like a follow-up. This would probably come out during the ArtFight event. I really hope that this advice helps you out, whether you're a new player or an old one. I'm always excited to participate every year, and hopefully I'll make an ArtFight summary video of sorts sometime in August too. I'd really like to share the growth I achieved during the event this year. Remember, ArtFight is something we do for fun. If you're burnt out and need a break, there's no shame in stepping away for a bit and coming back later. Or even just not coming back until next year. I really hope you all have a fun ArtFight this year. Oh, and I'm sure I was showing my profile on screen several times throughout the video, but my ArtFight username is AquaSpider, so if you'd like to attack me, that's my handle. Maybe we'll see each other on the battlefield. I've also tagged a bunch of my friends in my profile's bio, so you should attack them too. I'll link my profile below in the description. Thank you, by the way, to my Ko-fi members for helping to make this video possible. My Ko-fi members helped my income become a little more stable, and helped me get closer to my dream of being a full-time artist. I may be moving after the summer, so the support from Ko-fi members will seriously help in making that change easier. If you'd like to join the members and appear in my video credits, you can check out my Ko-fi page in the description below. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month, or you can just follow me for free blog updates and learn what I'm up to. I have a lot of events I'll be vending at this summer, so follow me on Ko-fi if you want to know where I'll be and when. And since this video is coming out in June, that means the Mothman Pride collection for this year is still live. At the time of writing the script, we're about 70% funded. Go support the project and share it around. Let's hit all the stretch goals and unlock 30 Pride-themed Mothman designs. Get stickers, pins, and charms, and even request a cryptid of your choice if you pledge at the highest tier. There's lots of options, so go check it out in the link in the description, or search Mothman Pride Collection Volume 3 on Kickstarter. And with that, I believe that's all I've got for you guys in this video. Thank you all again so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely ArtFight. I shall be seeing you all on the battlefield. Me and my mysterious cohorts. So let's have fun this year. I'll see you guys next week with another video. In the meantime, go out there and make some art.